welcome back to Tenza Motorsports. Before we get into today's topic of welders and how little I know about them, make sure you are subscribed. Make sure you also like today's video if you enjoy this type of content. Also, make sure to check us out on Instagram, Tenza_Motorsports. We have done a lot of research. I've been wanting to do a welder for a long time, and we finally got one that isn't just the cheap $80 one. Now, we did own the cheap $80 one a couple years back, but all it did was spit and splatter everywhere. And that really didn't honestly bug me as much as the fact that it would just bite right through the metal. And we're not talking thin pieces of metal. We're talking like 1/8 inch, and it just would bite it immediately. And there was nothing I could do to stop it. You could turn the speed down, you turn the heat down, and it just would go right through it. All I have to do is finish one of the 2 race cars exhaust for this whole entire project to pay itself off. Now, I do have gloves and the apron. These are just the standard Chicago Electric apron and gloves. I think I already have some gloves and an apron out in the back from when we went through this first round with that cheap welder. And again, like I mentioned earlier, that I don't really mind it splattering. It's gonna be on the exhaust as long as it's not leaking. Your grinder is your best friend. That doesn't matter what kind of welder you have. I've heard that from people that have been welding for 30, 40 years. The angle grinder is your best friend. So I'm fully committed to that. That doesn't bother me at all. It's really gonna pay itself off in the first project. I've got 2 cars we need to do this to. So we've got the white race car I need to do a custom exhaust, and we have the black car that we've been working on. I'll have the link up here. That's the car that we're gonna be doing first when we do get all this up and running. I did buy a piece of exhaust pipe from O'Reilly just to test and play with this welder on. As you can see, we have a cart, and we also have our flux core welding wire that we've purchased. So in today's video, I really want to show how easy that this welder is to use. I have really never successfully made a single weld. I am seriously very new to this. I've welded less than a foot successfully. So if I can use this welder out of the box with very little knowledge of how to weld, then that'll show the ease of this welder. Now, this welder is a 120. Now, you can get this exact same welder that has the 120 and the 240. We decided not to do that for a couple reasons. One, they didn't have one there at the store. Even these are kind of hard to find. This was the first time I've seen it at Harbor Freight. I think that was one of the motivators to buy it this go around, was that they actually had one in stock. So I don't want to do much more talking. I am really excited to open this up. I've had it in the garage here for just under a week, and it's been killing me not to open it up because I normally try to save things like this for opening on camera. So let's get this pulled apart. We'll go over roughly what's inside of it. There's plenty of videos that go over it and how to set it up. I want to get that cart set up. I want to get this roughly set up and then see if I can weld on the pipe. This is a welder that can use gas if you want to, so in the future I will eventually do that. But for right now, we'll be using some flux core. So really excited. Let's get all this opened up. All right, so I got this all set up. This can actually take 2 different sizes of spool. So there's the larger inner diameter, and then you can put the smaller one up here. You just have to move the washers around, put them back to the way they were. And then I've fed the wire into the motor there, and I haven't turned it on yet. So far, there's not really any complaints. The only thing that I've come across is that this little cable here, it's got like the 6 pins. It's this little guy right here. It was very difficult to get in, and I think it's just because the pins, because there's like 5 or 6 pins, and I think they were just slightly off, and so I had to really push it in there, and I wanted to make sure that they weren't like bent or something, or that I wasn't bending them, and so that took me a while to get that plugged in. So the instructions are super easy. 140, 170, like I was saying earlier, the only difference between the 140 and 170 is the 170 can use the larger plug. So, okay, well, for right now, I'm going to put this on hold, and we're gonna build the cart real quick. I wanna talk about that. That shouldn't be anything too crazy. It didn't look like it was super complicated, but I wanna put that together tonight, get this put on the cart, and then we'll start playing with some metal. All right, so as you can see here, the cart is now built. And as you noticed, there wasn't a little montage of me building it. That's because my camera died about 5 minutes into it, which means I had just barely gotten all the parts out of the box before my camera died. It was fairly simple. There's one thing I want to talk about. The instructions are absolutely horrible. The only page that really helped was the very last one, which shows an exploded view of everything that's going on here. I did a couple things. So this hook is down lower than this one. There's 2 settings, and I did one of each just to see what I liked, and then I can move it later if I want to. There is an extra screw here that I have just hanging around. So hopefully we can see that here. There's an extra one right there, because if you look back here, there's a hole, but there's no hole in the back plate. And I think that they're just missing a hole, so I might drill that out. It feels fairly stable. I don't see why I would absolutely have to. The other thing that I want to talk about is that the instructions tell you to run the screws in this way, but I feel like it takes up more room on the inside to have the nut, which is wider than the head, and then the 2 washers, and then the threads poking out. So if that causes an issue, you can flip them around, and I might do that later on depending on how everything fits on here. So pretty simple, totally worth the money if you're going to go this route. And then on the back here, there is a spot to put your gas tanks, and then you can use this chain here. It hooks through right here. So yeah, pretty simple. So we'll get the welder put on there and see what everything looks like. Pretty excited about it. All right, so here is my setup. I am super excited about it. I did notice one thing, the welder not being fastened down is kind of annoying, so I don't know how to go about that, but when you're moving the cart, you can't grab the welder. If you grab that little lip at the bottom of that tray, it works pretty good. Put your hand underneath it like that and move it. There's my Chicago electric welding helmet. I already had that. It worked really well the first couple of times we used it, so if I were to do this whole process again, that's probably the one I would have bought. And I did have left over from the other ones some gloves, and then these are your arm protectors. So we'll use the apron we've got down there, some replacement gloves. These gloves right here are actually really nice. I'm not sure which ones these are. Let me see if there's a tag on them. So this is the Chicago electric gloves as well, but we're getting a hole right here, right at the base of the thumb. These have been used for other things, as you can see here. There's a burn mark from a nut. We've used these for other things that are really hot, or things where we need really thick gloves. So it's not just been welding. If you're just welding, they probably will last a while, but we've been kind of beaten up on those, which is why I purchased some more. All right, so the only thing to do now is to pull out my little bit of pipe here. This was only like 10 bucks, 12 bucks, whatever it was. And I only purchased this piece to test on and destroy. So let's get some wire fed up into the tip there and see if this thing will weld. All right, so I did a little weld here. Unfortunately, it didn't get caught on camera because apparently I forgot to press record. So we're doing really good on missing footage in this episode, but so far it's looking pretty good. I'm literally like maybe 3 inches into my first weld that I've ever really done with a welder that wasn't just the super cheap $80 one. And I'd have to say I'm really happy with it. It's not going anywhere. So as long as it doesn't leak, I think we're in business. Obviously this is just a test pipe, and I'll be playing with all sorts of other stuff before I start actually welding what is important on the car. And hopefully we're not too echoey right here. I'm trying to keep the camera far enough away that it doesn't get damaged from the splatter and stuff that's coming off, which is coming off, but it seems to be minimal, and it's not really sticking to the material very much. I mean, you're gonna have to clean off some of this, but yeah, very happy with it. I have been playing with my Chicago electric mask here. This is just their $50 one, I think it is. It's super, super dark. I think that's this setting here. I don't have the instructions for this anymore. I had to turn the delay up a little bit, the sensitivity. Yeah, I'm still playing with all the settings, but yeah, really happy with everything so far. So let's keep welding. And I'll tell you something right now, I'm trying to make sure that the camera can see what's going on. So I would normally be welding this way, but I'm gonna come around the edge here so that everybody at home can see what's going on. Make sure to keep in mind that I am new to this, so keep the roasting to a minimum. I've basically doubled my amount of welding in this video from what I had done before. You can get everything that you see in this video today for around $700, and I bought the 2-year extended warranty on it, which is absolutely fantastic. Most really professional welders start around $800, $900, and then you're looking at getting gas, and then you have to get all of your supporting products from there. This really, honestly, if you're doing mostly exhaust and a little bit of sheet metal, I don't see why you would buy anything else except for maybe the 170 welders, so that you could potentially use the 240 plug, and that's really it. So happy I bought this. Hopefully I've swayed your decision in a positive manner. I really appreciate everybody for watching. If you have any comments or questions, leave them down in the comment section below, and I'll have everything we used linked in the description below. Thanks again so much for watching. We'll see everybody in the next video.
Bam!